What up guys, today I'm going to be talking about How Strong is Galactus Part 6. We're going to be going through every comic book appearance. We're almost done. I'm going to probably finish it in this video or the next. I'm just going to go through as many as I can and see if I can finish it hopefully in this video, but it's most likely to be in part 7, so that should be the last part for this series. Now I do want to say in my last video I did mess up a little bit. Towards the tail end I kind of ended a little bit too soon. I thought that was the end of the story, but they did show 2 other scenes after that which put a little bit more interesting context to, you know, what happened after those events of the last part that I did. So let's get into it. It started off with Adam Warlock when he left, and he brought back the Adam Warlock of that universe. So he left, he went to this other dimension. He's hanging out there with Eternity and Infinity, and they're basically talking to him. Eternity says, "But most revered living tribunal, is the universe now truly safe and secure?" And then Infinity goes on to say, "Your predecessors thought it so, yet you fell victim into the band of renegade Beyonder. His power was that he could not defend his charge against such overwhelming adversity." So what happened was in that story event, something happened. There was this Adam Warlock from another universe, not from the main timeline. So he was from another universe. His living tribunal ended up fusing into him, so he got the powers of the living tribunal. He didn't know how to fully utilize the power, but he did absorb its power, and he ended up in the 616 universe where their living tribunal ended up getting killed by the Beyonders, which was a race of superpowered, like, you know, cosmic aliens. So they ended up killing him. He lost his position, and Adam Warlock also died in their universe, so he got sent to their universe. He ended up also obliterating that universe when he unleashed the power of the living tribunal because he didn't know how to fully control it, so he ended up destroying it. Then they brought it back by going to the one above all to bring back the universe itself. And when he brought back the Adam Warlock of that universe, he left and he ended up in this dimension, and he was now talking with Eternity and Infinity because he apparently became the replacement for the last Eternity, since that one died, since, you know, he is an Eternity himself. So we have a new one here. And then he also goes on to say, "With me, that story will play out quite differently." Basically, he's saying that the other one was powerful, but he wasn't as aware of his situation, whereas unlike him, I'm not going to be so easily fooled. Which is ridiculous that somebody like the, you know, the living tribunal could be killed by some, like, alien races. It's so dumb because usually what we've been heard is that he's the judge of the entire multiverse, so all the universes, and he's basically the second closest to the god of Marvel, yet he was able to be killed by other aliens, which, like I said, it doesn't really make much sense to me personally. I do think it's kind of a little ridiculous if you think about it, because you would assume that being that powerful wouldn't be able to be killed by anybody, but the thing about Marvel is the cosmology is very wonky, so even if characters are said to be really powerful, even in the scaling of the cosmology itself, that does not mean that they're unbeatable, which is a little weird. So then after this, we go on to another big and very major event where we have this team called the Ultimates, which has Blue Marvel, Captain Marvel, and T'Challa and some other people on the team, and they basically they're kind of like another Avengers team who handles bigger threats and deals with them. So it goes on to say, this is Dr. Adam Basher speaking for the Ultimates. We are about to exit the exospace of the neutral zone to travel outside the Omniverse entirely, and from there we plan to assess any damage to the omniversal structure caused by recent time travel activities. Will keep you posted. So what he's saying is now they have some machine or ship to get outside of the Marvel Omniverse. Before, we've seen them getting outside of the universe. We've seen them talking to Eternity, which is a representation of the universe. They've gotten out there and talked to him, but this time they're leaving the Omniverse. So every universe, this is not just one universe, this is a collection of all the universes in Marvel. They're basically somehow able to leave that and also check the damage that's happened to it, because there were many events that were transpiring throughout these times that was affecting the multiverse. It was many universes getting affected, and then these big story events. I only kept on the ones for the main storyline, which had Galactus in it. There were other ones with other universes, like with the whole, you know, Adam Warlock thingy from another universe. So all these events ended up weakening the omniversal structure, sadly, in Marvel. So then we go on to we go on, and then we see a scene with Molecule Man and Reed Richards, and they're talking. Reed Richards goes on to say the Omniverse ended and began again, and when it began again, it was through imagination, the imagination of a childhood, the imagination of hope. So I'm assuming what happened, we already saw the event with one of the universes getting wiped out. It was only one that wasn't a multiverse or omniversal level event, because they specifically stated that one universe got destroyed when Adam Warlock unleashed his power. But like I said, there was many different events transpiring that were messing with the cosmology and the consistency. One other big event that happened was Galactus, who is an integral part to the universal structure in Marvel. He ended up turning from the World Destroyer and World Eater to basically the Lifebringer, so he changed his role too. So there's been a lot of effects to the cosmology itself and these other realities that I guess ended up destroying the Omniverse as a whole, and it had to be recreated because of it. So after this, we have Lifebringer Galactus showing up, and he comes to the Ultimates, and he basically goes them to, puts them to sleep, says, "Sleep, my apologies. One of them managed to achieve a state of hypercosmic awareness. Fortunately, he will not be believed." So he's saying that all these guys, he uses powers to basically make them go to sleep, because the Ultimates were trying to, they were trying to, because they themselves wanted to stop the problem, so it was their job to engage and do something about it. But Galactus said, "Nope, I'll do it, I'll take over the charge." So he put them to sleep, showcasing his incredible power, being able to put up somebody like, Blue Marvel to sleep, and even Captain Marvel to sleep. He said one escape, I'm guessing that was probably Molecule Man, because he said achieved a state of hypercosmic awareness. So after this, he goes to talk to Chaos, because Lord Chaos and Order, they basically, since they really run the structure of the universe itself, it makes sense for him to go check out with them. So they go to talk, and Chaos says to him, "Influences, there are truths I can no longer hide, but some knowledge can be borne by pre-cosmic minds. To have it spread would risk destroying them. Lifebringer, you must bear its weight within. Who did this? Who could do this? Who changed the cosmos? If that is your question, Galactus, then that must be your task. Return to me and find out." So he's talking to him, he's saying, who could have done this? And he mentions the fact that the cosmos was changed. Now, when we hear the cosmos and stuff, we think about the universe, but in this instance, it is beyond universal scale or even multiversal scale. It's omniversal scale, basically mean everything, all the universes amalgamated are basically being affected by this event, and it has something to do with it. So then they go on as Galactus is trying to get out of the universe itself and go check out. He says, "Watch the Lifebringer tear a hole through the no space back to where he had come from, a door inside, back into eternity, back home. The outcast wanted to stay there in the absence where there was no meaning, stay there with a new love and found a love stronger than death, the love of nothing, and yet he knew he must have prevented himself." So what happened was, since he left all of creation, he went to the outside of the omniverse itself just to find out what's happening. He kind of got stuck with it. He's like, I enjoyed, but he had to go back, so he was able to tear a hole through nothingness back into eternity itself, which is the representation of the universe, going back into something. But as this was happening, we got to see eternity, or the representation of the omniverse itself, because there are different types of eternities. There are multiple eternities, each representing one universe, and then there's a whole big amalgamation of all those eternities, which is the one that's being in trouble right now. And we see him. It says right here, eternity is in chains, the personification of the universe, every universe only truly visible from outside them all. Someone has caged the omniverse itself, and the omniverse has made it to find out whom and why. So Galactus he left the omniverse itself, so he was outside of the universe and all these other universes to check what the representation of everything, and he's talking to eternity, which this is the eternity that's representation of the omniverse, so all the universes. And he said, who could have taken you down? Who could have put chains on you? Who could have restrained all of creation? Now this is a very interesting and powerful event, because whoever could do this must be very powerful, right? But remember this, that just like Reed stated, that the universe at that point basically, or the omniverse at that point, had been changed so much with the cosmological structure. All these universes have been affected so much to the point that it had weakened the structural integrity of the omniverse itself, thus collapsing it on itself and being reborn. And one thing you learn throughout the Marvel Comics is every time there's a new rebirth cycle for either the universe or the omniverse, it comes into a new state of understanding of these cosmic structures. So these different cosmic structures aren't as fixed at what they are supposed to be. So they're very free-flowing. There's no fixed position for each of these cosmological structures. So they can shift throughout the power system however they want. And when the new universes or whenever there's a new cycle for a universe or the omniverse, it weakens it. So when it first comes into being, it doesn't have a strong law structure. It needs a structure that's like, oh, okay, here's this cosmic entity, this is what they represent, this is what this being represents. So they need some structure and order for the universe to be fully strong and solidified. But when it first gets through its new cycle, it is in a weakened state because there is no strict laws of governing what the universe or the omniverse is supposed to be. So it's easier to take down. So I'm guessing that's why it is easily chained down, but still, it's quite an impressive feat. After this, we have Galactus saying some more stuff, saying, so be it, for I am not a brother to eternity. Glenn, last son of Ta, merged with the dying heart of the sixth omniverse, and I was born, who better to face the task. So he states that he's not a brother to eternity, but he does have a connection to it, and that the last universe that he was connected to when it died, he combined with it. He says the omniverse, but that isn't true because we know that when Galactus dies, the omniverse doesn't go, it's just the universe. So he's connected to the universe, but they're saying the omniverse. I don't know what they mean by that. But then after this, we have Galactus. They're having like a council meeting and stuff, and he's talking to Chaos and Order, and Chaos is going off on him, and he ends up pretty much punching Chaos in the face, knocking a tooth out. And then we go on to see as Chaos says, you hit me. On the level combat is metaphor, a clash of ideas. By existing in this form, I damage your narrow systems and your boundaries and your categories. They lose their meaning. You lose your, no, back in your box, devourer. So what happened was, he was having this discussion with them. They were kind of like having a lot of back and forth, and I think it was Order that he punched, not Chaos. He ended up punching Order in the face, and Order's like, what? You hit me, but how can this be? And he said, we are metaphorical beings, so we're conceptual beings. And we hear this term a lot now, saying this being is conceptual or beyond conceptual, meaning that people assume that they're omniversal or boundless, but I don't think that always means that. In this, it just means that these beings aren't usually operating on a physical sense, but more of a thought and idea sense, where if you believe a stronger idea than them, you can hurt them. So they had the thought of that, and he fought them on a metaphorical sense. So I guess you could, of a character isn't physically strong enough to do something, they can at least imagine. So it's just like think of an idea and hurt them through that way. It is confusing and it's weird when we come with these type of characters, but that's just how it is. So after this, Galactus sees the door and he goes through it, and apparently it was opened to him by Molecule Man, and he starts to talk and says, it is the voice of a being who could end me what they thought. Hey, tread carefully, Galactus. Molecule Man, you created this quasi-reality. I like alteration to Molecule Man. I technically worked with atoms, but Atom Man, even atoms seem big and clunky to me now. I should be Proton Man or Quark Man or String Man. So what happened was Molecule Man basically contacted Galactus as he was trying to find out who could do this, and Molecule Man is trying to help him out and give him a little bit of a hint and talk to him. So he shrunk to the microscopic level, because if you guys know anything about string theory, you know that with all these other dimensions, they exist within a microscopic universe. So for you to be in these higher dimensions, you would be in a microscopic size. So that's what he did, and he created his own reality to showcasing Molecule Man's strength. And I did say that I will be making a Molecule Man and Beyonder video on talking about how strong they are, because they do have some absurd powers, and I want to get more into that, but this is just a little bit of a taste of what he's capable of. but it also showcases that even though Galactus is quite powerful, he does have limits on who he can face, and somebody like Molecule Man is way above his his pay grade, to the point that if he was to fight him, he said that he could just erase him with a thought, so it wouldn't even be close. So it goes on as Molecule Man says, "You should sit down." So he says, "Yes, that's good. Sit down, have a soda from the 80s. Just two guys sitting down, talking ourselves, all good, and we should talk. We should talk about eternity." So like I said, he is a top dog. Even Galactus is not trying to challenge him, even though we've seen Galactus has been quite, I want to say arrogant, but he's very confident in what he's capable of. But when it comes to him, he's not. And he's trying to explain stuff to him. And we see also later on, as Galactus saying, tread carefully with him, basically saying that he's dangerous. He's clearly right now calm, but he could hurt me if he wants to, so I should just not, annoy him. Then it goes on as Molecule Man shows him this box. He says, "So did the kid die? The human thought experiment, a primitive understanding of quantum superpositioning originally meant to, but I was lying. See, there's an omniverse in the box, and that omniverse died, but a lot of the living that is carried to the new one, a new broom, same handle." So he's showcasing him this box. He's talking about the, Schrodinger's cat thingy that talks about, quantum physics and stuff like that. And Galactus saying, yeah, that's a very, very basic understanding of that. But when he opens up this box, it's the Omniverse. But it's more of a visual representation than him actually creating the Omniverse, because sometimes when we see characters like this having like a universe in their hand or something, they're like, oh, they created the universe. No. They could create the universe, or they could be creating an image of it. Not saying he can't do that, but from what I've seen, he's been on high multiversal level scales. But omniversal, like being able to destroy the entire, every creation, all of Marvel, I think it's a little bit of far of a stretch. But he's just showcasing the last one and explaining to him what happened and, the whole story about this situation itself. After this, we have a little unique event where there's this one device. This cuts in the middle of the story itself, where there's this one device that basically is the Alpha and Omega. It was created in the last universe, and it destroyed the last universe when these two pieces came together. And now Silver Surfer is tasked to separate them again because they're coming close, and if they come close, they'll destroy the universe. And Galactus is here to basically send them off to the separate ends. But he has to use pretty much all of his power. He puts his hands out to basically bend space and time, so he can send both Silver Surfer and his new girlfriend to the opposite ends of the universe or eternity itself, but it requires all of his power to do so. And we see in the image next that eternity puts both of his fingers together so they can connect. So that's how they go there. Basically, he forced eternity to put his fingers together to push them there. And then they do it, and that's what happens. So after this event, we get into back into the main story. Like I said, the thing about comics is it's a little confusing. A lot of times they have one story that's going one linear path, and then they have another story that interrupts that in the middle of it, because comic books, when they have these issues, they have multiple other issues connected to them, so they deviate from the main story. And that's one of the reasons a lot of people don't like reading comic books, because it gets confusing. You can go when it comes to like manga, it's just linear with the storytelling, whereas comics, it goes diverse in different paths. So that was one of them. So sorry if you guys were like, what does that have to do with this? Going back to it, now we see once again eternity. He's chained. It says right here, the eternity, the multiverse, everything that is known, shackled and helpless, held in chains in the endless void, screaming, and behind the personification of all that is just out of sight. So yes, he is a personification of all the universes. They said multiverse, but they've said also multiple times before omniversal. So he's the representation of every universe in Marvel that you will see. So he's the representation of every universe. He was chained, and like I said, the assumption that people are going to make is, whoa, somebody's powerful enough to, chain the omniverse in, Marvel. But remember, if you guys go through the stories and there's more context, even more than I've given you, there is reasonings why it happened. It wasn't simply just because somebody's so powerful. It was due to the fact that the omniverse had been weakened through all these situations, and it just came back from a new cycle, which the cosmological structure hasn't been fully set, so it's in a far more weakened state. And this is important because I see this a lot with people when they do these debate videos and power scaling videos, when they talk about, oh, this character was able to do this or that. the thing that they always do where they manipulate the facts is the fact that there's more context to it, and they just showcase that and you're like, this is what happened. But like I said, for me, I'm not going to do that for you guys. I'm not going to, take things out of context. If I don't have the full context, I'll just tell you I didn't look into it, and I'll try to at least piece things together. But I'm not going to bullshit you guys and say, yep, this is what happened. Because from that image alone, it looks like, yeah, eternity itself was like, or the representation of all the universes, the omniverse itself was able to be captured. So somebody's that powerful, but there's more to it than that. Like I said, it was in a weakened state. There was a lot of events that happened to lead up to that. So after this, we have Galactus coming back, and he's intervening with the Ultimates. They go on to talk to each other, and it says, "The war for everything that is unbelievable. He has transported us across the universe with a thought. He did as I wish. For I required a new heralds for the life itself. Heroes to fight the infinite, scream and unchain of the cosmos. A new reality dawns, and we will save it. Will guard the flickering flame against the ultimate darkness. Will you stand with Galactus?" So basically, he created a new herald. He sent him out to the Ultimates to have them teleported to him, and then explain what is happening. He's saying, "Yo, I got a new herald. I got him to help me out with the situation. Everything is in trouble. All of reality, every reality is in trouble. But what happened?" And he, like I said, it's in a weakened state because he states that we're the dawn of a new one and we have to guard it. Basically stating that when you go through these cycles, each new one that they transition through of these cycles and stuff, they basically end up what's the thing called? It ends up changing the structure. There's no order. Usually there's order to all the cosmic and conceptual entities and where they lie in the system and what their job is and their title is, and that's what makes the universe whole, but and the omniverse. But when these cycles happen, it restarts it, and everybody's position just disappears. So they have to reinstate who is supposed to be doing what job, because without that, the universe will be in a more vulnerable state. That's what happened there. So then we go on with this. This thing shows up quite a bit where we have Galactus talking about the events transpiring in the beginning of each of these issues, and he goes on and adds on more stuff, but he says some pretty interesting stuff. He goes on to say, 5 of Earth's most powerful heroes, his Ultimates team, aided me in becoming what I am and turning. I helped them on a mission to glimpse what lies outside of all things. On that quest, I spoke to eternity, the personification of all that exists, the true eternity of whom each universe's eternity is but one small facet. He was changed in the cosmos itself cage. He gave me a mission to learn the truth about the imprisonment, and with it force lay behind. To assist me, I sent my newest herald, Connor Sims, once the villain anti-man, and to bring the Ultimates to my ship in World Ta. But the higher powers of the cosmos, in particular Master Order and Lord Chaos, are unhappy with my evolution in the cosmic hierarchy. I fear they will do anything to make me as I once was. So this part is really important. So he basically going on to saying that he has changed. He is now no longer here to destroy worlds, but create worlds. He found this team of 5 very powerful superheroes. The Ultimates, they're the most powerful. Basically, he's working with them to help fix the cosmos or everything, the representation of everything, because it's in danger, and they're basically going to be the guardians. He also goes on to explain, like what I said, that this is the true representation of eternity, basically the representation of everything, because every time we've seen eternity before, it was just small versions of him, which were each individual parts of basically the omniverse itself. So each of them were a representation of every universe that was amalgamated in the omniverse itself. But he's saying that this is the true form. These are the small facets. So a lot of times when people say, well, this character was threatening eternity and destroying eternity, they keep on making it sound like it was a representation of everything. But those ones, every time those stories has been specifically stated that it's affecting this reality or reality. It never said realities or all of reality or the multiverse or the omniverse, because in this story event, when they did, they mentioned it specifically that it was affecting the multiverse or the omniverse or realities, and they specifically went into detail talking about all these other realities that were connected with it. Whereas these other stories where a lot of people try to make it sound like it's an omniversal level threat or being, they were only affecting that one universe or that one specific version version of eternity himself, like in the Infinity War storyline where Galactus took over the position of eternity and basically ended up destroying him, right? Every time we've seen that, that was a universal level threat. So people try to upscale these, cosmic beings, or these artifacts such as, the Infinity Gauntlet or the Cosmic Cube as outerversal, whatever the ultimate nullifier is, outerversal or multiversal, but they've always been universal because they specifically talked about that. And he also mentions that since the structure has changed, and what's his name, Galactus has evolved, he is no longer who he used to be, and because of that, everything has gone out of order, and Master Order and Lord Chaos don't like it. They're unhappy about this, and they're starting to go against the rulings of what has been shown, and they're basically going on the path of betrayal and changing their ways, so they're going to mess with things. So we go on next to see Galactus before the Living Tribunal, Lord Chaos, and Master Order, because the Living Tribunal is basically, obviously, the judge of the Marvel multiverse. Anytime there's a big event happening with either the universe or everything, he's there to judge it and talk about it. And in this case, Lord Chaos and Master Order are talking about their problems to him, saying, hey, we don't like the way things are going with Galactus. We don't think it's cool. And Galactus came there to basically be put on trial. So it goes on, as Galactus says, the level of aspects where signifier and signified become one, where metaphor and reality met, where concepts make war. Now remain silent, connoisseurs, be vigilant. Watch and learn. Before all I was, after all ends, all I live again and die and live again. I wear three faces, but my true face is ever hidden, and my true name is true. No one knows. Sorry. It's sometimes weird when I read this stuff. But what he's basically saying is, he has one face that's never been shown, and his true identity, or what he's actually called, because he's not called the Living Tribunal. That's just a title that's been placed upon him. But they don't know who he is. We do know that he can die, but he will always come back anyway, just like what happened with the Beyonder situation. But Galactus was going on basically saying that this is a place where everything that's war and physical is just an idea and a concept. So basically, we're conceptualizing these physical actions out. They're not really physically happening. So there was a bit of a trial there, and they're talking about the cosmology itself. So then we go on after this, and we get a bit of an explanation on what is happening, because there is an introduction to this new character. He goes on to say, everything died. I was the shaper of worlds, an omnipotent being, a curse with the urge to create, but with not imagination to guide me. But when all was lost, and even I saw the need to start anew, I gave up my substance, my power, myself, to remake a single universe throughout my own herald, golden Galorian, and through the dreams of Norn Rad and Don Greenwood. But I had acted without faith. So basically what he's saying is that he was basically the god, or the representation of the universe before. So he was a god that was tasked to create new worlds and new life. And as he creates it, he was he had like the craving to create new life, and he was meant to create these new realities, but he didn't have the imagination to make anything special. So he says, screw it, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to make one, single universe that has a main importance, and I'm going to do all this stuff. But for me to do that, I need to sacrifice my power. So he was willing to sacrifice his power to basically get rid of all the other universes and then just create one specific said universe. He goes on to say, but I had acted without fate, in the wheel of time that turns to turn again. Eternity was reborn, the seventh omniverse became the eighth, and I died. Betrayed by glory and gold and good, I fell to oblivion in a single moment. That was all moments. The moment the wheel turned, I saw what lay beyond. So basically, he's saying that, so he went with a new idea of making one universe, but that universe ended up getting destroyed and created the seventh universe. And after the seventh universe, there was, sorry for that, there's the garbage disposal. But after the seventh universe got destroyed, it was the eighth universe. And after the eighth universe, it was basically, the way this happened was one of his herald that he created ended up betraying him. So since he gave up his power to recreate the universe into one, which was the sixth cycle of the multiverse, but it became the universe. So there was I guess he created the first one, and then after the first one, he created multiple ones, and then he wiped them out. And every time he wiped them out, that was the end of one cycle until he got to this fifth one, where he basically wiped that all out to create one universe, which was the sixth universe, which Galactus came from there. But Galactus ended up destroying it by peering into the past and the Big Bang itself, which ended up creating the destruction of that said universe, creating the seventh one. He got ejected out of the sixth one, got basically combined to the seventh one, and ended up becoming a cosmic being that is connected to the universe itself and the cycle of it. But not only did he get connected to the seventh universe, but the seventh cycle of the universe, but the seventh cycle of the universe also created the multiverse again. So the original God before wanted there to be specifically only one, but after the sixth one, it recreated and restarted the multiverse back again, which Galactus was a part of now. And then when the seventh one ended up dying, creating the eighth one, which was the events with Adam Warlock fused with the Living Tribunal, that ended up having it apart to end up destroying the Omniverse itself again, because, like I said, there's multiple instances that transpired throughout that time, and that was one of the major instances that did it. So by doing so, it had ended up destroying the seventh cycle, creating the eighth, which recreated the multiverse, the Omniverse again. And when it got created this time, apparently he was betrayed by his herald. I think his herald was the one who was planning and plotting and setting up the destruction of the seventh cycle to create the eighth cycle, so he can take over power. Because remember, this being gave up all of his power, or most of his power, to recreate the one universe, and then it ended up becoming multiverse, so he couldn't do anything about that. And then in this situation, he was so weak at this point that he was able to be killed by his herald and taken advantage of. So after this, we see Blue Marvel using his powers as he's trying to trap this being, because this being came out to explain what was happening, but he had a big force field around it. It goes on to say, "I learned the secret of the one who and more, and I saw the others. Adam, he's breaking out. No, not on my watch. Mon, like we practice. Sure, brain electricity is triggering the right neurotransmitters, regulating the dopamine and your serotonin, and you give the mental boost I need to hold him. I'll felt that in the morning, but friendly stand in pain." So what happened was, this entity that was the previous one that created stuff basically somehow ended up coming back to the eighth cycle and explaining what happened in this message, and it was kind of like an attack, but we get an explanation more later on what was happening there. So Blue Marvel jumps in. He basically creates a barrier trapping this thing, trying to hold it in, but he can't fully do it without the help of, I'm pretty sure this lady that's helping out is his wife. So she basically messes with his brain waves and stuff to increase his dopamine and his serotonin, so he could be able to handle it and energize his brain. It didn't hurt him, but it gave him enough power to basically strengthen his force field and capture this thing. So when he did, we get a talk between him and T'Challa. T'Challa goes on to say, "Perhaps now that is the time. You hold a god in your hand. Dr. Bashir, the shaper of worlds, an alien cosmic cube, can't come to life. I'm impressed, but can I keep up with it as long as I have this? This isn't the shaper, T'Challa. It is a ghost and echo of his former self, a last desperate attempt to carry a message. I saw them on the far shore, so vast even I could not comprehend. I came back from death to warn him. Everything lives. Do not you see what that means? Everything lives, so nothing truly dies." So T'Challa goes on to say, "Whoa, you caught a god and you put him in this cube, like the cosmic cube. It is very powerful that you did that." But Blue Marvel went on to explain, like, no. It wasn't that I had the power to capture a god. This was actually an echo, a ghost of the former god. So when he died, before he died, he sent out, he used the last bit of his energy to send out a message in this astral projection form to explain kind of like the gravity of the situation and who's doing this. So the herald that betrayed him ended up killing him, but before he died, he sent out this energy message to go into the new cycle to warn the heroes and the people of there of the impending doom coming by. And this was just the echo or the last bit of his energy that came through there, and with all of Blue Marvel's power and the help of his wife, was able to capture it. So Blue Marvel is powerful, but he does have limits because he needed help from his wife just to capture this godly ghost, which wasn't even the full representation of him in general. So yeah, there's a lot to it there. But after this, we get into a crazy thing where Lord Chaos and Lord Chaos and Order, whatever, they both attack the Living Tribunal and obliterate him, saying kill him, and Galactus just stand there. So I'll give you a little more context. There's going to be a little bit more explanation with a couple of images, but I'll give you a little more context right here. What happened was, since they had the little trial and stuff, Chaos and Order were saying, hey, we don't like what's happening with Galactus. He's become the Lifebringer. He's not meant to do that. His job is to destroy planets and take lives. And at some point later on in the future, he's supposed to become like the Lifebringer, where he basically brings more life back than he destroyed. But right now, he's already become the Lifebringer, which is way too soon. He's supposed to be doing that in the far, far future, not now. So they were kind of pissed off by that, but the Living Tribunal saying, hey, look, there's no problem here because this is a new universe, there's new rules, we haven't fully established anything, so he can pretty much be whatever he wants. So they said to themselves, all right, bet if we can do whatever we want, since there's no cosmological structure, that means we can make ourselves as powerful as we want and obliterate you. So they ended up destroying the Living Tribunal, which is ridiculous, but I guess every time a new cycle happens, not only does the structure, the cosmological structure and order change so much to the point that the Omniverse is in a weakened state, but so is the representations of the Omniverse, like the Living Tribunal, and his position is no longer steadfast at what it is. So even the other cosmic entities can reach that level of power or higher. But I don't know why Galactus just didn't believe himself doing that too, because if there's no structure, they can just make themselves as powerful as they want. And he's just like a similar being. Why doesn't he do the same thing? But he goes on to say, they and I caught a glimpse of eternity in chaos chained a cosmos jailer. In the time this disband needed, they were monitored in a group of powered humans, the troubleshooters, to make sure they do not meddle in the cosmic affairs again. But I called them in to aid the solving eternity's misery, along with me, my new herald, Colonel Sims and stuff. Okay, problems and figures. However, I have problems of my own. The higher powers of the cosmos, in particular, the Living Tribunal a personification of the multiversal law spoken. My favorite reality has died and been reborn, and thus the hierarchy has no longer exist. Order and chaos took the consul's heart and murdered the tribunal. So sorry if it's a little confusing, because like I said, they keep on doing this after every new issue, and he basically goes and explains the same thing over again while adding new information at the bottom to give us more context on what happened. So like I said, since there is no specific order to this structure of the cosmology anymore, they can pretty much change it how they want. Order and Chaos, they were listening to the Living Tribunal. He said, I agree with Galactus. You guys cannot just, I get you're mad, but Galactus has the right to stay the way he is. You guys can't force him to go back to the way he once was. And they're saying, but this is not fair. This doesn't fit in the structure. And he goes on to, he went to say to them that, hey, well, here's the thing, man. This shit, when it restarts, everything becomes anew. There's no like, oh, this is specifically what you're supposed to do, or this is your title of that. It's basically a free-for-all at this point. And Order and Chaos thought to themselves, saying, why the hell should we follow these old rules then? We can make ourselves as strong as possible and end up attacking him. And they ended up killing the Living Tribunal, which, like I said, even if the universe starts in a new cycle, it is ridiculous to be able to kill the Living Tribunal, because normally they should not be able to touch him at all, but they did now. So once again, I want to say that context matters, because some people are going to say either the Living Tribunal is really weak or these guys are really strong. But the thing is, the reason why he was weak was because he was weakened due to this, and the reason why they were able to defeat him was since he was weakened due to this, and also the cycle, there was no like limit to what they could do. They could just imagine themselves at this point to be stronger. So it goes on as Eternity's body's getting destroyed. It goes on to say, and it may have started, Galactus, did they just murder? Idiot laws burn its liar's head into the name of the cosmos. But our actions also serve the higher order Galactus, and no fear there will be, well, and the manner of the things will be insanity. The cosmos barely reborn, the tribunal, the personification of law and order, the judgment barely risen anew, and you have murdered it again. You have the slightest idea of what you have done. We have done what we have, what we could do, and as say the multiverse is still foaming, the new order of the things is still taking shape. The tribunal itself told us that the old hierarchy no longer meaning, and no meaning, no future, chaos. So, like I said, they ended up killing him. They murdered him. They said, yeah, you know what? We're doing this for the betterment of the hierarchy of the structure because you kind of ruined it. And he's saying, what the hell are you guys doing? He just we just had this new cycle. We just had the multiverse come back into this newer baby form, which is basically in a more vulnerable state, and the Living Tribunal has come back to, and also in a vulnerable state. But he's trying to get things in order, because for them to regain their power and to have stuff go back to the way it was, they need to have order and structure through law. And Living Tribunal is supposed to set it up, but now you have killed him before his power can fully come, because once when he fully sets it, then everything's set in stone where their power lies, where how strong they are, and then him and the universe get back to, or the omniverse get back to the full scope of their original power. But as he was killed before he could do that, it's now in a weakened state, so the structure can change. And they mentioned it in self-order, saying that, yeah, he basically stated that there was no law and order on what things are, so they could change however. So we decided to take upon ourselves to change it into our favor, because we're sick and tired of the way things are, and the fact that he's just letting this slide with you, because they have a big problem with Galactus himself. So in this event, we already have another entity that has captured the omniverse itself and has changed it because of all these events that had happened. So he's whatever this being is, it's plotting. And then we had the former master basically saying that this being was his herald, so kind of like how Galactus does with Silver Surfer. And this herald ended up betraying him because he gave up most of his powers to reset everything, but it ended up not mattering anyway because the multiverse came back. So he went to, see what was happening, but his herald ended up killing him, and he was the one who set this up. And as this is happening, Order and Chaos are getting fed up with what's happening with Galactus and everything, and they tried to have the meeting with the Living Tribunal to get him on their side, but he sided with Galactus, and he explained that since everything is new, there is no real structure, and since there's no real structure, you can basically change it however you want. So they took it upon themselves to be, to attack him and kill him in a vulnerable state. Like I said, normally they wouldn't be able to do this stuff, but since now that this whole structure has changed, it kind of does weaken him. So Order goes on to say that was the problem when we fought before we Almighty Galactus, we did not understand this, where you had the truth that all along we were not constrained of our old rules. So basically goes on to say, last time we fought you, you were able to get the upper hand and fight us back because you knew already that there was no structure, so there isn't really a limit to what you could do here, so you could basically go up in the hierarchy in rank, so he could fight back. But they thought that, basically what was happening was Galactus knew that there's no longer a limit, because usually when whatever they're stead on their positioning and their title, what they're supposed to do in the cosmic structure, they have a limit to what they're capable of and their power. But since there is none of that, they can get as strong as they wanted. So Galactus got strong enough to surpass them, because normally he would be below Chaos and Order, and he cannot contend with them. But since there was no structure and he knew he can get stronger because he doesn't have to be confined to the old rules and the old power that he had. Whereas these two guys thought they did, so they were stuck with that power. So mentally it was kind of like a mental block. But once they figured it out, they said, well, if there's no rules, we can do whatever the fuck we want. Not only can we kill the Living Tribunal, apparently, we can also fight you back and you can't do anything. So they go on and say, and thus we are capable of anything. Sims go, no, this is life. So basically they go on to say, we can do anything now because there's no structure. That's why we were able to kill the Living Tribunal. So like I said, it might seem a little weird and confusing, but there is context to it. So they say they can do anything without structure in the Marvel cosmology. These characters can basically, or at least the conceptual beings, can get as strong as they want. So they go on to attack him. Order says, how very stubborn the developer assembly will not take his proper place despite the most powerful augments, despite pain, despite agony, despite refusing to kill again. I have a place, Order. I have a duty to eternity, and I will not fail him. Lie, the tribunal is dead. There are no longer duties. There's no law. So Chaos is going on saying, hey, there's nothing left. There's no law. We don't have to follow any rules. We can do whatever we want. So basically they did a coup, and they're trying to take position of power. It's kind of like, when there's a criminal organization that's big and it runs everything, and then that criminal organization gets destroyed and they have to rebuild. Now they're in a weakened state, so then you have people who are usually on the lower level rising up the rank. by basically taking advantage of the weakened state that they're in. So they do that to conquer others. So this is what they're basically doing. The cosmological structure got taken down, so that means they are not held back to do anything, so they can actually move up. So they're moving up in the scaling and power to usurp the throne and take it for themselves. So it's kind of like a fight for like the battle power and struggle. So they go on to say, as Order says, if there is no longer law, there's no longer hierarchy among the cosmic beings, then we have no less power than the rebel Galactus, but no more either. We cannot permanently impose our will on him. That will not do. A new hierarchy must be created and maintained. A status quo, a sweet chaos cannot exist without order, brother. Just as good cannot exist without evil, or fact cannot exist without fiction, or do not doubt. So what it goes on to say is, Order saying, since there's no hierarchy, we can get stronger as much as possible, since we're, beings of, concept and thought. We can just think ourselves stronger now, since we're not held to any standards. Because even though they're conceptual beings, they do have a limit due to the fact that there was a structural law, and that structural law limited their power. Now there's no structural law, they can get as strong as they want. So basically Order is like saying, we can get as strong as we want, but the problem is Galactus is in the same boat. He can do the same thing. So we cannot beat him forever. We can hold him off, but he can do the same thing and rise up. So what should we do? So Chaos is saying, hey, we need, Order is saying, we need to change the status quo and combine. We need to work together. So before separately, we're basically, we're just on the same level as Galactus, but if we combine, we will be on a higher level, so we will be the highest thing in the power system, in the hierarchy. Now we will go from just, hey, we can do whatever, to we're working together, so we're two conceptual beings together, meaning that we are above the other one. So this is how they're going to surpass him. After this, we go on to America Chavez talking to Captain Marvel. She goes on to say, we all caught a glimpse of something outside of the reality, something wrong and horrific, something that is chains and cage being fed on. Nobody's doing anything about that, and nobody can even hold it, their heads, except Galactus. So sure, I'm working with him, and I want you people to be working with him. All right, now we have needed back to Misflight. So she's basically going on to say that, hey, we saw the damage that's happened in this, now that what's the thing called? The Omniverse in weakened state is being chained and fed on by another entity trying to gain more power, while also Chaos and Order are doing the same thing, trying to gain more power because of this situation, right? And she said the only person that can help out is Galactus, due to the fact that now he is also not constrained, so he can get as strong as he wants. He's the only help that they have. So after this, we go on back to see the In-Betweener, and he goes on to say, when he says, and a certain butterfly, when it flaps its wings, it causes a storm halfway across the world. It will change in outcome all battle, and eventually a war. So he goes on to just basically explain what's the importance of him. He's the duality of all things that causes chains of cause and effect that changes the tide of history and life itself. And he gets visited by both of his masters. They go to see him. And as they go to see him, Chaos basically starts devouring him, saying, die, and be absorbed into Chaos. No, Lord Chaos, stop. The balance depends on it. And then Eternity goes on to eat, not Eternity, Order goes on to eat Chaos and the In-Betweener, saying, combining our forces, and you will be the glue that binds us in between, the catalyst for our merge. Stop, please stop. So what is happening here? They said we need to get more powerful. How do we get more powerful? Since we are two conceptual beings, if we combine, we will be the most powerful beings. Everybody else, they're all concepts too, so we're basically on the same level. So we need to combine to be twice conceptual. So by being twice conceptual, we're already higher there, and then we can establish dominance. But the only way we can do this is by getting In-Betweener to basically hold us together. Because remember, In-Betweener was created by both of them to basically be their avatar and their champion and mitigate, the universe and the structure of it, being basically the perfect balance between Chaos and Order, be both opposites to maintain balance, because you need good and evil and stuff like that, right? But now, since the structure is no longer there, they don't need to maintain no balance or follow in these rules. They're doing whatever they want, so they're going rogue. So you have Chaos devouring him, and then you have Order devouring Chaos, and them both, because he can absorb the power of In-Betweener, and then Order can absorb both of them, and by absorbing chaos, he's more powerful, and by having in-betweener in him, not only does it make them obviously more powerful, but also it keeps them together, because if they're just both merge, they'll split apart, so they need something to hold them together, which is why he used the glue. So then they combine into a new being, and this new being goes on to say, into one, for I am now the new order of the new law that binds all things, I am Logos. So now it's changed from chaos and order to Logos. Logos is the combination of them, and he is the new structure of the omniverse itself, basically considering itself the new god, or kind of like the living tribunal. Logos goes on to say, but rather creating the new now that is a wish to be, I am order out of chaos, the violent change that creates a new status quo, I am the future, I am Logos. So basically explaining more of what he's establishing. As this is happening, since it's a new cosmic being, it's going to, Logos is going to affect and, basically send a message to the other cosmic entities that had part to play in the previous structure, since now there's no longer a original structure and there's a new one. He's saying, hey, screw it, I'm going to showcase that I'm the new powerful one, and I'm going to change things. It goes on to say, and you are the Celestials, the Beyonders attack the previous multiverse, annihilating your kind. You hid in the deep folds of space and time, thus you alone escaped the cull. And it said that your kind created life and death, that their current forms, and that created the multiverse itself in fire and conflagration of the dawn of all things, it is said. But you have fallen so far that you do this loss that have rebuilt and repopulated, relay to yourself as unknown judges of the world. But the world of all new, I am the new world of the multiverse. So what he's saying is basically, he's saying that, explaining what happened to the events that transpired here. Talking about the Beyonders killing the Living Tribunal. After they killed the Living Tribunal, they affected the multiverse and everything. So I'm guessing the big event that really did this, because like I said, I didn't go through the whole incursion event, because that's where the Beyonders came and did that whole story. I went through some parts that had Galactus in it, so I didn't go through fully, so sorry for that. Maybe I might cover that at some point in the future, but in that event, these Beyonders were not only attacking one universe, but they were attacking multiple universes, thus messing up the multiversal structure anyway, and that's what led to the downfall of it. And once when they did that, it changed everything. And he goes on to tell, the Celestials that their job used to be life and death in the previous multiverse, but now they have no position, to have nothing. And he's saying that you're pretty much outdated and there's no longer a need for you, because I am the new power system, so you are not necessary. So this goes on as Galactus comes there to try to do something, but Logos is already attacking them. You see him killing all the other Celestials pretty easily, and then there's this new being, this new other cosmic entity that comes up to talk. She goes on to say, but haven't you heard Logos? And he said, what? Who speaks? Nothing does. The Never Queen, the personification of what might be. So here's a new cosmic entity who is considered the Never Queen. She's basically the personification of what might be. So the possibility of the future, what could happen. So the uncertainty of the future and life itself. So she's basically the unknown, or representation of the unknown, which is pretty interesting. And it's talking to Logos, saying that we're in a new territory of the universe, that nothing is known, we don't know the structure of what's happening, and you took it upon yourself to make yourself a new thing, but you clearly don't know yourself what is happening. So she came there to introduce herself, going on to say, you killed possibility just now, Logos, and I am possibility. I feel I should say something. Away with you, Queen of Nevers. You might be, you have no place, but there's no such thing. I have time for whimsies. I have new balance to create with thought snarls and tangles of inconscience here, and simpler hierarchy of existence, my hierarchy. So basically she's saying, yo, you killed the Living Tribunal, you're becoming the new god, you're getting rid of the other possibilities, because at this point it could have gone in any direction, but you're taking away the possibilities. You're basically attacking me, saying, I don't give a shit, get out of my face here, I'm not wasting my time with you, I have more important matters, I have to change the cosmological structure of everything itself. So then we go on as Blue Marvel is talking. He says basically, oh no, not Blue Marvel. There's these group of guys attacking the Ultimates, and this guy says basically to Blue Marvel's wife, basically, I'm a non-physical being, like you, except instead of living energy, I'm thought, and it turns out that thought is faster than light. So I am thought in your head. So basically, these new beings came to fight, or new guys came to fight. The Ultimates who are trying to safeguard the new multiverse, and he goes on to explain his power, saying he has the power of like thought, and he's explaining that thought is faster than light. So there's he's not very important, but this does explain a little bit of a structure of the Marvel multiverse or the Marvel cosmology, that in the Marvel universe, thought moves faster than light itself. So that's just a little interesting fact. After this, now we have the Never Queen explaining herself, saying, I'm the Never Queen, she who is all possibility. I am what might be forever outside what is from, and there is I see all. First there were the Ultimates formed by Carol Danvers to solve cosmic problems. Before they became problems, the possibility was where they started. By solving the problem of Galactus, the World Eater, together they cured his hunger, evolving him into the role of Lifebringer. And on later mission, Galactus and the Ultimates discovered that Eternity, who as the multiverse was in chains, the Ultimate disbanded, then reformed against the wishes of their government to solve their new mystery of the secret team. However, they were being monitored by a second group, the troubleshooters, who were tracking down them, engaging in combat, during which one of the members, Radio Stalvia, revealed himself as something monstrous and dark, intense from the cosmos. Meanwhile, on the higher planes, the aspects of reality of war, on higher, the living tribunal judgment that all things now possible, chaos and order, murdered him. They merged into own lost self named Logos, executing the godlike celestials, and restored Galactus' hunger more potent than ever before. So she goes on to explain now, since Galactus at this point, he was Lifebringer because of the Ultimates, but Order and Chaos, with their newfound power, they ended up killing the Celestials and ended up getting rid of his Lifebringer title and turning back to what he was. But even worse now, he is like kind of like a zombie form of himself, where he hungers more and wants to devour more. So they're basically trying to change things to what they want and the ways they like it. And she's explained that she's basically the possibility of everything, but with them coming in is basically ruining the possibility of everything. Then we go back to Eternity, who's in chains, and he gets contacted by the being that is orchestrated this whole plot. It goes on to say, nothing can help you. Your own system have been corrupted, turned against you. They will devour you from the inside, and I will absorb what scraps you have left of eternity, and will be as long as it was long ago, before your foul kind, before the multiverse, before the 8th, 7th, 6th, 5th, and back, dying and being born over and over. This little filthy organisms will return to the saner times when, but the cosmos, one universe, one reality, one totality. So we get introduced to the being that was doing these effects. The previous being that died, that gave out the message, was warning them about this being. This being basically is now came to contact to Eternity, telling him his plan and his plot, saying that, hey, look, I wanted to take the, basically what happened was, my whole goal was to have one universe, but there was so many of these cycles and so many of these other universes creating you the omniverse, which got in my way, and I'm sick and tired of it. I want to get rid of everything and go back to one specific universe where everything's simpler. But for this entity to do it, it needed to plot against Eternity itself to take it down. It couldn't take Eternity down with its own power, because it's the representation of everything and many, many universes, which was too powerful for it. So it plotted in a way to take it down systematically within its own body by sending the Beyonders, where these powerful alien beings who are outside of the universe itself, to set them against, the beings within these universes, basically causing chaos and havoc, especially when it came to the Living Tribunal. By killing the Living Tribunal, which is the representation of the law of the multiverse, by killing that, you're basically screwing up the law, and when you screw up the law, it screws up the cosmology and the structure, and then it crumbles in on itself. So by doing so, this plot, by having the Beyonders basically mess with all these other universes, creating these incursion events, colliding universes with each other, messing with time, killing the Living Tribunal, and setting everything into chaos. By doing so, it was messing up the structure of the Omniverse, thus ending up destroying the Omniverse. The Omniverse got blown up, but we all know that when the Omniverse gets destroyed, it always comes back, it reforms into a new cycle. So that was the 7th cycle. It got destroyed by its plot, and it came back to the 8th. But this is where it went to enact its further its plans, because now, since before the Omniverse it couldn't handle it because it was too powerful, it needed the plan to make it be destroyed so it can be recreated, because once it was recreated, it's in a far weaker state, right? It got recreated, it's in a more vulnerable, like infantile state. Infantile state. Infantile, you know what I mean, like a childish or baby state. So by doing that, it's in a weaker, more vulnerable baby state where it's weaker, and now it can chain it. So once when it chained it, it basically stopped it from growing and doing its job. So now that it stopped from doing its job, it went on further with its plans by sowing more chaos and havoc throughout its body, because now with the new cycle, not only is it weaker so it can chain it, but it also has no structure. So that means these cosmic entities within there can change the positioning, and by doing so, it can ruin everything. So it basically was influencing both chaos and order to get more pissed and want to go rogue, and it did. So by getting them go rogue and finding out that they not only don't have to follow these rules, but they can get as strong as they want, it got them to turn on the structure itself by killing the 11 Tribunal. By killing the 11 Tribunal, it messed up everything, and then getting as powerful as they want and becoming this new god. So this was all this whole thing with Logos was also part of this higher cosmic entities plan to take down the Omniverse and destroy everything to bring it back to the original. So and it attacked it already with the Beyonders plot. Then it changed it up when it got renewed in the cycle. Then it started a new plot with Order and Chaos, basically killing the Living Tribunal, making them the new god inside here, thinking that it's getting the power, but it's basically a pawn for them to basically destructure everything. By doing so, it will destroy the Omniverse. But this time when the Omniverse is destroyed, there will be no more cycles. It will recreate it into one universe. It will have the power to create it back into one universe, one reality, and everything. So the Omniverse and eternity is going to be gone. It's going to be only one, and he's going to be the representation of it. Because by being the representation of it and destroying the Omniverse as a whole, basically that makes it what's the thing called? By destroying it as a whole, it makes it have the ability to become the new positioning for it, being the one universe itself. So yeah, once it amalgamates, it becomes that. And then we see a little more as it goes on to say, I am the first fragment and soon I'll be the last. Basically saying that it was the first original universe. So like I said, there was multiple cycles, but each cycle had its own representation. The first cycle, or the first universe before the cycles, was this being. This being was the original, and it was supposed to be the first universe, but once when it died and it got recreated, it created a new cycle which created a new entity, and it wants to go back to the way he was before, because he wants to take control of everything and doesn't want eternity in that position no more. So that we go back again to the Never Queen. She goes on to explain that Logos executed the godlike celestials, restored Galactus' cosmic hunger more potent than ever before. All of this is part of his plan, something that was influencing Logos, controlling, and something that has revealed itself. It's the first fragment, the very first iteration of the cosmos itself. So like I said, it was the first iteration of the cosmos. So it did all this plot. It is manipulating chaos in order to become into one to create Logos, which Logos now thinks it's the god of the of the Omniverse and going to be controlling everything, but it's being corrupted and influenced and controlled actually specifically by this being, and this being is using it to do its bidding. And once when it does fully achieve its goal, it's going to end up destroying the multiverse, which it's going to come in, swoop in, and take over and become the new universe, basically the new eternity, and being representation of one universe. And this was explained by the Never Queen, and it's called the first fragment. So this is the first fragment of the original cosmos. Then we go on later as the first fragment goes on to explain more about the backstory and his plan. He says, in the beginning there was only one universe, only I. My universe was perfect, and yet I was only I was alone, and moved by the unattainable loneliness, I made an error. So basically he's going on to say, in the past it was only me. I was the representation of the universe. I was the embodiment of the universe. I was a single universe. I was the first cycle, but I kind of made a mistake because at that time I was lonely. I was everything, and I felt like I wanted, like, it probably wanted something more, kind of like I guess like the story with Adam and Eve, where Adam was like, I'm the first and only human, but he got lonely, so he wanted a companion. So the same thing with this being. It was okay with being alone, but then it wanted a companion, so it made a mistake by creating another universe, thus creating the first multiverse. When it created this, I think this it realized the mistake it made by creating too many and unnecessarily doing this. Thus, basically, afterwards, feeling the need to destroy the multiverse itself and reset it, but by doing so, it destroyed that universe, created a new cycle, ended up destroying himself. But he goes on to state that celestial beings, my servants of my toys, soon they had servants of their own. They were clever little pets. They were indigenous in their worship of me. They needed for a favor. I like the names of aspirants. I was pleased, but those were others, multicolored rebels. They were their creations of evolving to gaining the power of universes. Evolution to gain the power of universes, and for the universe to evolve within them. They knew and grew the change of morality, and Manus had siege. It was a war. So what happened? He created this. It created other life. It created the first and original Celestials. These first and original Celestials were basically his toys, or basically his first creation. And then after that, they created their own, where they created these other beings that worshipped the fragment itself. So the fragment was getting worshipped by these new beings, which were the Celestials that we see a lot. And these Celestials were multicolored, and they're representations of the universes and stuff. And they basically, their goal was to create other universes and other life, because they were creators. And since they were doing that, and it wasn't supposed to be the goal, or that wasn't what they were supposed to do, they basically kind of were at odds with the originals. So the original Celestials didn't like this, so they got into a war, ended up killing them. So the original Celestials were created by this fragment being. The original ones created the current ones, the multicolored ones, and the multicolored ones wanted to create new life and new universes, so they betrayed the original ones, ended up killing them, and by doing so, it caused a lot of problems, because now the fragment saw the problem would happen and went on in action and stated a war that shattered me to pieces. The final conflagration of the rebels detonated their unimaginable weapons. Hundreds of new universes split off from my pure substance into terror to the previous. My uniqueness, my very self, I fell into the furthest edges of the being, remaining aspects inside me and behind me. So what happened was the current Celestials, the colored ones, killed the original ones. Once when they killed them, they set off their weapons. They created weapons. They set them off, and as they created and it set off, it exploded, basically damaging and destroying the fragmented one, which was the original universe. Ended up destroying it, and when it did this event basically blew off its energy, and parts of it, pieces of it shattered, and it created new universes, thus creating the multiverse itself. So because of these new Celestials, thanks to the Celestials, it created the multiverse and the cycle and the cosmology we see now. So they basically, by them betraying the original masters and thus detonating these explosions, destroying the original universe, blowing off all these fragments, creating new universes, creating the multiverse, the first multiverse, it split it up into a small fragment, which it no longer had its full power, basically depowering it. And then this is where we get the introduction to eternity the first time, as it goes on to say, the new universes coincided, forming a new collective entity, a second cosmos, and the first of a new breed, the first multiverse. So the fragment was the first universe. It was one universe. It created new beings. These new beings created their another new beings. These the newest beings were basically the Celestials. They betrayed the old Celestials, killed them, set off an explosion, destroyed the universe that created everything, was the first universe. By doing this, it set off and blew it into pieces, sending the fragments and shatters everywhere. That's why it's called the fragmented one. So it sent out these fragments everywhere, creating other universes. And when these other universes got created, it basically formed and created a new being called Eternity. As it created Eternity, it created the first multiverse. So that was the end of the first cycle of the first. The first cycle was one universe. It ended, creating the multiverse in the second cycle. In the second cycle, that was the representation of it, was Eternity, and that's why it has a vendetta against Eternity. That's why it's trying to destroy Eternity, and that's why it's trying to devour it. By having Logos destroy everything within, it eats the remaining parts of it, gaining the power of it to recreate everything back into one. So basically, Eternity was created because of the Celestials starting this war, destroying everything, and then creating the fragments, creating him. And now he wants to get rid of the Celestials by having Logos kill them, and then also get revenge on Eternity. So it's basically a revenge plot and going back to things the way they were before. And he's trying to get rid of the multiverse itself, go back to a single universe. As they go on, it says the second Infinity was colonized by the rebels. They evolved their own saboteurs, calling them Omegas, in operation to the Alpha that I was. A stubborn insult, a challenge. I watched them from afar. That at this point, this new reality aged around them like some animal. Immortality was what they craved. They have it. But the death of one multiverse was only the birth of another. I rathered in frustration and exile as the multiverse was reborn over and over, evolving further with each iteration. So he goes on to say that, hey, as this new multiverse got created, it wasn't the end of it. As time progressed, the multiverse would have run its course and end up getting destroyed anyway. So it would get destroyed, and as it destroyed, it created a new cycle. And it wouldn't just stay dead. It would die, but then it would be reborn. Kind of like the story of Ragnarok, where it's like, it's the end of the world and it keeps on happening, and it's death and rebirth. So basically, the universe, or the representation of the multiverse and everything, was going through reincarnation, and he was sick and tired of it. He was still alive, but as a small fragment outside of everything, watching and seeing the cycle go on and getting stronger and stronger and stronger, getting sick and tired of it, and wanting to get everything back to the way they once was. So doing so, the fragmented one now plotted its big goal on how to set everything back. It goes on to say, until now, until then, Eternity. So basically saying Eternity is going to keep on evolving. Eternity can die, but it keeps on coming back. But this time, he's sick and tired of it. He has a plan. He's going to get the representation of everything, make it go through another cycle, but this time when it's in its weakest cycle, because it's watched to go through the cycles multiple times, seeing it get stronger, but it also noticed that every time it goes through a cycle, it's in a vulnerable state. So he's going to make it go through another cycle in a vulnerable state, catch it right in the opportune moment, imprison it, then set a plot to destroy the inside of it, and then devour that, and then become Eternity itself. But once when he kills and eats all of Eternity, it will destroy the multiverse, coming back to one universe which it originally was, and go back to how he used to be, where he was just one universe, and this time he's not going to create any more life. And he goes on to say, and I had the weapon, a thing, an alien to you, hate, and I hate enough to patiently choose my moment for your death and resurrection after your chains from 7th multiverse to 8th, when you were weak. Like I said, so I'm not just bullshitting, because sometimes people might comment on my video saying, you're just saying this because you don't want these characters to sound powerful, or you don't like the fact that these characters are this ridiculously powerful. But it's like, no, it's not that that's the fact, that that's the case. It's the fact that a lot of times I see people making these big statements and claims, and I'm always saying, where's the context, the context, the context? Because it matters, because a lot of times these guys overhype and overwank these characters and these stories and events. And I'm just asking for context to it. And this is the context. Like I said, I know what I'm talking about. So the only reason he was able to do this, he himself admitted, he didn't have the power to beat him, but he had hate and he had patience. So he was patiently waiting for and plotting to create another cycle. By doing this, creating the 8th one, he knew he was going to be weakened, so he can take the opportune moment. Because if he was strong enough to be an omniversal level being, or attack and destroy the omniverse itself, it wouldn't need to go through all this planning. It would not need to wait for it to go through another cycle. So that showcases why the Living Tribunal got killed, why Order and Chaos was able to get more stronger, why why the Eternity, who is a representation of everything, get captured. Also, this showcases that if a being that's powerful wants to take down the what's it called, Marvel Multiverse and everything down, an easier way, it's not saying that it is 100% easy, but an easier way to do it is basically destroy everything within by making it messing up events. Having to go through a cycle, by having to go through a cycle, it does this. Sorry for that, there's a car outside. But going back onto it, once again, sorry, but going back onto it, said, it wasn't enough, you were only changed, not dead. So I send my aspirants forth and astro gods, my dark celestials, to infect you, to infiltrate your timeline. The Simon Rogers Phillips will be working with us to corrupt your inner workings. Brother, are you well? Yes. So it goes on. Like I said, I didn't read all these other stories, but it's giving me more context as I read the story, what was happening. So it said it was planning to kill it, but it couldn't kill it, so it could only capture it. So even with it in weakened state, it couldn't kill it. So it's like, okay, it's fine. I'll just plan more. I'll set my own beings in there that I'll create, and then I'll corrupt some of them. He corrupted order. He set some of his guys there to infiltrate stuff, and then start a big problem and mess things up. As this is happening, though, Galactus comes back in his newly found weakened hungered state, and the Ultimates are trying to fight off the threats that have been sent by Fractured One. As they go on to say, his hunger is uncontrollable by mind and morality, nor can it ever be satiated. It will only siphon energy and life outside the reality slowly, at first introspectively, the faster and faster in time is time and space spiraling away into the first fragment, leaving nothing behind in all your fault. So basically, Galactus now, since it got changed by Logos, it came there to devour everything. Once it devours all the stuff, the more planets, the more of the universe it devours, the more that power goes directly to the Fragmented One. Because the Fragmented One, it's called Fragmented for a reason, because it got basically beaten and weakened. So by having Galactus going there and devouring it is basically adding the fuel source to it directly. Then we go on afterwards as we have America Chavez talking again. She goes on to say, good, we need that nonsense out of the way. We know the enemy's name now. We know what we're fighting, and we're not enough. The multiverse is finished as a concept. You are the expert, Mac. What do we have next move? So yeah, she goes on. She said that the multiverse as a concept is going to be done. There's only going to be a single universe, so we need to go on as fast. As we go on this, we have something happened where they brought Galactus back. He was in this hungered state, but they were able to reverse the effects that Logos did and turn him back into the Lifebringer. As he got turned into Lifebringer, he knows that now that he's not strong enough to beat Logos and these guys at this level of power anymore, and the Fragmented One's minions. So he needs some help. So he gets Ego, and he gets Ego to help him out. Ego is not really a conceptual being himself, but he's a very powerful cosmic being himself. And since now they're outside of the realms and there's no longer need for a law and order, he can also increase his power. So he increases power as he's helping out Galactus. Galactus goes on saying, Ego, the superflow is a conceptual space. At our level, combat is metaphor. The door isn't real. So yeah, he stated himself that in this realm inside, we're in the realm of concepts. So we're not fighting in a physical aspect, we're fighting a metaphorical aspect. What you're seeing is just a representation of that metaphor that we're representing here. So the stuff that they can do there, if any being goes there, they can basically increase their power and do whatever they want. It's basically just thought. If you think that you can do this or think of this concept or belief, then it will happen. And that's what he was explaining to Ego, as Ego goes on to, grow in size and power and back him up. As the fight transpires, there's some more information. As he goes on to say, the high evolutionary immortal with delusions of grandeur, what does in conceptual space we exist as living information can be recorded. So what happened was, one of the guys was getting the information from this conceptual area because it's just about metaphorical thinking. So he's absorbing the data from the metaphorical world, sending it back to the high evolutionary, who is a high-minded being, and this is connecting to the Maker, who is the evil version of Reed Richards. So they're working with him, relaying the information to him so he can help out. As the evil Reed Richards goes on to say, so what if we steal that information, that reception of perfection, and apply it to our reality to strengthen eternity? Now we're getting it. It could be done here, of course, in the Prime Universe, last of the old, first of the new, and all hub revolves around. Here, since science can be magic, here we can rewrite every story in the perfect worlds to be made and whatever. I am the Maker. So he goes on to state that everything, all these other universes are being destroyed. So there's this one universe which is basically like the Prime Universe, where everything originated from. So they went back to the prime universe. He's using this machine to basically collect the data that's been transmitted from the metaphysical world. As it's being transmitted from the metaphysical world, the information is going to the machine, and as it's going to the machine, he's feeding it into eternity itself, strengthening it. Because like I said, this dimension, you can get stronger just by beliefs and by information itself. The more your thoughts and the more concepts you have, the stronger you can become, right? So you can just conceptualize your strength growing. And the state that the Omniverse is in, it's in a weakened state. But by being able to, get the information and the unique power of this realm, connecting it into eternity can do the same thing that Order and Chaos did, where they increase their power just by believing in it. Now he's going to be connected, and he can just believe he's stronger, gaining more strength to break out of the chains. And he goes on to say, Reed Richards says, they're probably too busy Hydro Earth to notice we're here, but behind the eighth cosmos, thousands of reborn new universes, all kept separate by the superflow, kept apart, kept weak. Now imagine if they all counter Earths, orbiting counter suns, encounter galaxies, but all part of the same universe. Imagine the walls tumbling down. So he's going on and he's explaining further that they're all too busy fighting, for the eighth cosmos and stuff like that. And he mentioned that there's thousands of reborn universes, basically stating how big the Marvel multiverse is, right? And then he also goes on to state that there's going to be other counter Earths, other counter suns and stuff. And as this is happening, with the fractured one, his plan is to break down these barriers, because there was always barriers between the multiverse. If you see in the structure of the multiversal design, it's always like these bubbles of these universes, and these bubbles are like the barriers between them. But he's breaking those barriers, making them all collide into each other, having them all collide, basically destroying them and creating one mega universe. One mega universe as a collection of all these and the information. As this is happening, Galactus is being damaged, and Galactus goes on to say, Eternity, no, it's a trap. It's the superflow. It's destroyed. Well with it. So this is a trap by the Fragmented One to trick the Eternity, and Galactus has noticed this. He's trying to warn him that they're destroying the superflow is going to be destroyed. And once the superflow, which is basically these barriers that protect these other universes, once when it is diminished, they will collide, destroying the multiverse. If it destroys the multiverse or the omniverse, that ends up destroying you, because you're the representation of it. And once when it destroys and amalgamates into one, it will feed into the Fragmented One, meaning that he will get the power. So he's warning him, saying no, but it's too late at this point. So by breaking these barriers that were created, these barriers and the superflow basically is what keeps, what's the thing called? What keeps eternity alive. That's why when the incursion event happened, it was collision of these universes and coming into contact. It was causing a problem. So they set it back up, and it separated them, keeping them alive. But now that their walls are broken down, they're coming into each other. As they hit each other and combine, they're creating back to the Fragmented One. So with the whole omniverse, that feeds into eternity. With a single universe, that feeds into the Fragmented One, and he's getting more. And he goes on to say, one universe, just one, me, good, very good. So the power's coming back to him. He's gaining more power. As they go on, the evil Reed Richards goes on to say, simple, no more superflow. The multiverse is now a universe, a single universe with a singular destiny. What's wrong with this? It doesn't feel like evolution. It's not later. Can you reverse it? Getting cold feet in the most metal boots. I do not advise her. I'm a multitasker. So while I'm rewriting the universe, I made a couple of edits at the local level, moved some things around, brought back a few old memories. Some people I could have had into line with Galactus doesn't matter. So what is he doing now? He's plotting himself. He's saying that, hey, look, I'm going to use the Fragmented One's plan. I'm going to do the thing where I destroy the superflow, thus creating this one, magnum, giant size, just whatever, giant sized universe. And he was working with the High Evolutionary. The High Evolutionary is now like, well, what the fuck are you doing? So by doing so, it's creating this one universe, and it's feeding into the Fractured One. but also as he's plotting, he's trying to change it since he's in this the Prime universe with this machine that's getting the conceptual energy from the other dimension and information. By getting that, he can change the information to whatever he wants in this new universe. So the Fragmented One is trying to get his power back, while Reed Richards is trying to change the structure of this new universe. So he's trying to corrupt it and change it to his liking through the the power of the metaphorical world. And then it goes on to say, I am the one above all. I see through many eyes. I build many hands. There are themselves, but there are also one, also me. I am all powerful. Basically, as this is happening, the Fragmented One is considering himself the one above all, but he's really not. Basically, he's going on a power trip. He's reaching a highest order of power at this point. It goes on as this event goes on. It says, eternity has collapsed from a multiverse into a single universe, and this is being consumed by the energy its dark ancestor, the first Fragmented One. We are forced to evaluate the outside of all things, and now the dark celestials of the Fragmented One bear back into him will not last longer here on the prime Earth. The situation of continuous destruction reaching a point of no return. Will no counter-Earth maker and high evolutionary actually think they are saving us? So what he's saying, Galactus, is the multiverse is getting destroyed, eternity is losing, the Fragmented One is getting back his power, he's becoming super powerful because of it. We're losing everything on that side. He's calling back his people also while this is happening. This is distorting everything into one universe. And he's talking about the Maker saying, I know them and High Evolutionary are trying to manipulate the data by having it into one universe, basically tricking the Fragmented One, saying, hey, look, you're going to absorb all the universes, but nope. Once when you do that, we're going to change you and then change everything back to the way it was, or change it to the way we like. And Galactus is questioning it, their plan, saying, do you really think this is a good plan? I think it's either the Maker is completely he's trying to fix things, or he's just doing it for his own selfish desires. After this, he brings back some of the heroes to fight, and the Hulk tries to fight Blue Marvel, but he one-shots him, taking him out. So this has nothing to do with Galactus, but it just showcases how powerful Blue Marvel is. So after this is happening, the Fragmented One thinks he's winning, but something is happening, something's coming out of him, and he's saying, no, eternity remembers what it should be. So what is happening? It was absorbing and devouring eternity as it was about to fully eat it up whole and become back to the original God. Eternity itself is remembering its power because of the Maker. So the Maker's plan was working. Galactus was questioning the validity of the plan. It is hard to trust him because he is evil, so we don't know if he's doing it for his own self or is he really willing to help out. But whatever he's doing, it's working, because now even though the Fragmented One thought it was getting all the power, it's actually backfiring and going backwards as eternity is jumping out of it and gaining back its power. As eternity is gaining back its power, the whole events that's happening with inside eternity itself is now changing as some events transpire. It says, the power of the Tiger God allowed me to ascend to the plane of a guide of shield, but the power I wield now is my on this level of combatant matter, for I am the king. I am a symbolic role in this times that I am the power of the symbols, and I am how fragile the law can be in the hands of one man free. So what happened was there was this other godly being there. I forgot the story. I think it was maybe one of like the godly beings that T'Challa connects to, like the Panther God. He went into this realm. Like I said, in this realm, if you have a decent amount of godly power and you just believe in yourself and have this conceptual ideal of who you are, and it's on a higher scaling, you can reach higher power. So he used the power of his imagination to make himself stronger, and thus ripping apart Logos back into what it originally was once before, thus affecting the Fragmented One again. And there's now a battle between eternity and the Fragmented One, as the Fragmented One goes on to say, who are you talking to? I can feel you on there. I feel always be on there to me. Do you feel that? It's the multiverse around us. Eternity is getting stronger and strong enough. Flow, I saw them. So this is quite interesting. It is getting into some pretty interesting stuff. What is happening is eternity is gaining back its power due to the Maker basically changing things by tricking it and doing it. And now as this is happening, we have something pretty cool as the other iterations of eternity and the universes that were the previous cycles have showed up. It says the multiverses assemble. The second, first of the new breed originator of the Megaforce,
The third contamination creator of Lifebringer won the first hero. The fifth maker of magic, weaver of the illusion of chains. The Infinity, the seventh Eternity's sister self, and is him. He is free. They are two in one. The sixth, the inventor of science, the builder of junction and everywhere. So this, what is happening is Eternity needs help. So by doing this, he's bringing back the past eternities and the past cycles of the universe to fight the first one. So the first one is the big enemy. They brought back the second one, the third one, the fifth one, the sixth one, and the seventh one is just Eternity and Infinity. So this is pretty cool because each iteration, every time they went through it, there was new things that were brought to the multiverse. The original one was just one. Then the second one, when they started the first multiverse, it brought in the Omega Force. Then it brought in like the creators of the Lifebringer in the third one and the first hero. The fifth one brought in like illusions and chances, and then the sixth one when Galactus came from brought science and builders and stuff, which is definitely him. And then the seventh one brought this. They didn't showcase the fourth one. I forgot why, but yeah, they brought back pretty much all the representations of the multiverse. So now Eternity has the help of the multiversal, I guess, Avengers to help him out. So they start fighting him. He goes on to say, "And they do my work. You are dead, all of you. I watched you die. But haven't you heard the oldest one, the first secret of Omega? Nothing ever dies. No. The lonely one, the bound is the chain to force. The poetry appeals to me. Then let us bear him the next place and heal if we can." So he goes on to say that the fractured one says, "Well, how are you guys all back? You all died. And then the second iteration or the second cycle says to him that, "Hey, look, you already know at this point when I came into being Omega, that was there was no longer death. We would die. Even if we die, we come back. So there's no permanent death. We're going to keep on coming back. So you can't stop us." And he said, "We're coming back to work again together to stop you this time." And it goes on as Galactus says, "Now the war is over. The stories and the eternities unchanged and uncorrupted. Order and chaos. Let us discuss your conduct and inner workings resume their functions. Those are happy return to what they were, full and free again." So what happened here? That was the end of the fight pretty much. So the big event was the Fractured One trying to take back his place because he was the original universe. He was one universe, but after he created the Celestials, they created their own Celestials. The newer Celestials basically killed the old ones, set off a bomb, destroying him, sending out his fragments, creating the multiverse and the end of the first universe, creating the second cycle, which brought in the first multiverse, thus creating the Eternity, as Eternity was representation and an embodiment of the Omniverse itself, right? He was sick and tired of it, and he didn't like it, and as he saw, even though with this new multiverse, it did have a time. It would get old and die, and once when it dies, it would recreate into new. And it did it multiple times until it came to the seventh one, and he was like, you know what, he's been plotting and planning to take it down, so he's like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to destroy the seventh one to create an eighth one. Once when I create the eighth one, it'll be weakened, and I'll take advantage of that. So how did he do it? He got the Beyonders there to basically start incursions, attack the Eternities, kill Eternity, because they had the power to do so, setting off this whole chain of events, messing up with the multiverse itself, thus weakening it, and ended up destroying it. Once when it got destroyed, it got recreated as a new, so it was the eighth cycle. But within the eighth cycle, the structure and the laws weren't fully, configured yet. So it was all over the place, and anything could happen at that point. And as it did, not only was there no structure, but it also weakened him. So he used that opportunity to chain him in his weakened state and feed off him and corrupt the beings within him to destroy it even further. So he corrupted order and chaos, and then had them go against Galactus, being mad at him. They had the whole meeting with the Living Tribunal, found out that, hey, there's no longer a cosmological structure, so in this realm we can get as strong as we want. They did. They formed together. They ended up killing the Tribunal before that, but once when they formed, they were the new god, supposedly, but they were being manipulated by the Fractured One. As he was manipulating them, he was having them kill the other Celestials that did this. He had his own enforcements inside the Omniverse itself to mess things up, and like I said, deconstruct everything, because that was the whole point. That's how he got like everything on his way. But after that, pretty much, what's it called? after that really happened, he was planning for it to destroy everything within it when it's fully corrupted, so then he can devour and take it as a whole. It did work mostly. He was devouring eternity. All the universes were again destroyed. There was the superflow, which is the barrier between these realities, and what they destroyed, it would all collide, making a mega universe. As it was creating the mega universe, and he was getting stronger and had Galactus devouring, it kind of went back against him, because by this we had the Maker connecting to a machine, to that dimension of metaphor, connecting it to eternity, giving him, increasing his power with the metaphor. As he was about to fully absorb him, he broke out and then brought back all the other cycles of the universe. They all worked together to beat him, and as they did, they took him down and imprisoned him and broke eternity out of his chains, and now everything was back. Because this new eternity, remember, is the 8th cycle. The 7th one was the main one that helped them out, and they basically ended up destroying it, beating him, and that was the end of that. So yeah, that was pretty much the end of that story event. That story event had a lot of impressive stuff happening. It was pretty crazy. There's still more impressive stuff. Like I said, I was trying to cram all of them into one this video so I can have it be ended by the 6th video, but I feel like I'm gonna have to. I'm not gonna go any longer. I've done this long enough. I'm kind of tired from talking at this point because I've been yapping the entire time. But yeah, that's gonna be the end of this video. I'm gonna start the next one pretty soon. I'm gonna just try to edit this video and get it out, but I'm gonna definitely get the next one up soon. Hopefully that one though is the end of this, because I honestly, seriously do not want to do any more because this is too long. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys learned a lot. I know this story was very long and very convoluted and very confusing, especially for me, because I didn't even read all the other stories. I just read some of them, and I had to, configure what was happening in the story and compile from the information I got. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for next time.